Today is Sunday, May 25, 2025 at about 7 p.m. My name is Farah Firdos, and today I will share with you 3 intellectual essays and one very short story, all written by me. The 3 intellectual essays are about humans versus robots, correct versus incorrect responses, and holding the right beliefs. And the very short story is about no longer wanting to fit in. I hope you find my writing interesting, and I hope you will find this video educational as well. So, here is the first intellectual essay I will share with you. Humans vs. Robots by Farah Firdos. Written on Sunday, May 25, 2025. Humans and robots are different. Humans are living organisms, robots aren't. Humans feel things, robots don't. Humans have emotions unlike robots. Universal emotions of humans include anger, happiness, fear, and sadness. It is okay to be sad sometimes. Don't think of it as a weakness, think of it as human nature. You are being a human versus a machine such as an air conditioner. Being sad is a part of being a human, it isn't a weakness. Besides, you don't have control over your emotions. You will be sad sometimes. It is a part of life for everybody. No choice here. No matter how mentally strong you are and no matter how smart and intelligent you are, you will be sad sometimes. You will cry sometimes. You will get angry sometimes. You will even get scared sometimes, even if you are an adult. All of this is part of being a human nature. Robots don't have feelings, robots don't cry, get angry, get scared, etc. But you aren't a robot, you are a human. That is why you will function totally differently. Additionally, while self-discipline, being mentally stable, and being mentally strong are important things in life, crying, being sad, and being in these kinds of other states sometimes is actually all right. That is what being a human is about, as opposed to being a machine or a robot. One example of a negative state of human beings is crying. All humans cry sometimes. You don't have the power to prevent yourself from crying. However, you have the power over how you manage and handle the situation of you crying. You could meditate. You could confide in a friend. You could talk to a mental health professional, seek advice, and so on. However, you will cry at some points throughout your life. It is a part of being a human. No, it isn't a weakness. It is human nature taking course. Some humans try to prevent themselves from getting emotional or feeling things. They don't want to be disgusted, let's say, or feel hate. They want to be mentally stable at all times. That is what they consider being mentally strong. But it is okay to hate sometimes. It is okay to be disgusted sometimes. You are a human instead of a robot, is why. You shouldn't want to prevent yourself from being in negative mental states. But you should intervene when you are in negative mental states. So, for example, if you are anxious, meditate. If you are angry, do some deep breathing exercises. If you are sad, dance or listen to pop music. In short, don't feel bad to be in negative mental states and to have negative emotions. It is okay. It is totally normal. You're still a strong human. You are still a successful person. You are simply being a human versus a robot. The solution is to learn how to manage your negative mental states and negative emotions successfully. So that was the first intellectual essay about humans versus robots that I just shared with you. And now I will share with you the second intellectual essay. Here it is. Correct responses versus incorrect responses by Farah Firdaus, written on Sunday, May 25, 2025. There are natural and automatic responses that a human's head produces to each and every single thing it encounters. Then there are responses that a human produces which aren't natural and automatic, but are formed based on analysis. Natural and automatic responses to stimuli that a human gives are 99% of the time incorrect. On the other hand, thinking things through almost always leads to the correct response from a human to a given stimuli that a human experiences. Unfortunately, human nature isn't always right. A human's head naturally produces a response to a stimuli he/she encounters, and this natural response is also an automatic response. It is the sad case that these natural responses are almost always incorrect. These natural set kinds of responses that a human has are actually 99% of the time wrong. You see, a human's head produces responses to what he/she experiences. Unfortunately, and very sad but true, the head doesn't know the correct responses to stimuli it experiences. The correct responses are learned. Moreover, there must be time that passes between experiencing a stimuli and responding in which you think about that stimuli for the response to be correct. You must think of the stimuli, gather information about it, analyze it, criticize it, research it, and so on before you respond. You see, humans aren't born knowing things. Everything is learned. So, if a human experiences something and doesn't know anything about it, the human won't know how to respond. Usually, any response the human gives will be wrong. Lack of information is why. For example, a human being hears a loud sound and gets scared. The fear produced is an automatic response, and automatic responses are almost always incorrect. The fear produced when hearing a loud sound is an automatic response, and producing fear isn't the correct response as well. Additionally, it is important to understand that a human's head naturally produces a set kind of responses to any given and all given stimuli. Each and everything that a human encounters, the head naturally and automatically responds. It is human nature to be this way. A fact of being a human is that the head responds to things it comes across. The responses aren't necessarily correct. Actually, they're almost always incorrect. Yet, a human's head naturally responds to all the things it faces. You hear a loud sound, and naturally and automatically you'll get scared. You get a gift from someone, and naturally and automatically you will start liking this person. If someone speaks in a harsh tone of voice to you, naturally and automatically you will get upset. All of this is wrong. The correct way to respond to things you experience is to think about that thing for some time. In that time that you think about the stimuli, you must apply the information you know about the stimuli. So, if you know that when you hear a loud sound that it isn't scary, that you are still safe, and that nothing is hurting you, then the next time you hear a loud sound, apply these kinds of information as you think about that loud sound, and then give your response to that loud sound. And the correct response to a loud sound is no response at all. So your response to that loud sound is to produce no response at all. Also, it is important to understand how crucial it is to actually think before responding. Even if you know information about a stimuli, if you don't think about it before responding, most likely you will produce the wrong response. So, when a human encounters a stimuli, has information about it, and responds automatically to it, then the response is usually incorrect. That is because the head doesn't get a chance to apply the information the human knows about the stimuli before responding to it. Instead, the head responds right away, usually without using the information the human knows about the stimuli. What happens is that the head produces the same response the head used to in the past before it ever learned information about the stimuli at hand. For example, loud sounds may make a human respond with fear initially before a human ever learned how to correctly respond to loud sounds. Human hears loud sound and produces fear. Then the human is presented with the information that loud sounds aren't scary. That when you hear a loud sound, you're still safe. You aren't in danger. Nothing is hurting you. The loud sound is presented to the same human again. The automatic response will still be fear. That is because the human has to first think about the loud sound and then respond. In automatic responses to stimuli, humans don't have the chance to think about the stimuli and respond to it as if the human doesn't know what the stimuli is. That is why the response is almost always incorrect. To solve this problem of your head naturally responding, you could also choose to ignore your responses that your head gives and then think things through about the thing you experienced and then give a response. Even if this response isn't your natural response, it is almost always right. Human nature isn't always correct, is the case. In conclusion, when responding based on information, even then the head will produce an automatic response. Ignore this. Then think things through. That is the correct way to create a response. You see, the response the head naturally creates is usually wrong. And your entire life is made up based on how you respond to things. Don't you want a good life? Everybody does. So then put effort into creating the correct responses to things you come across by thinking before acting, all right? So that was the second intellectual essay about correct versus incorrect responses that I just shared with you. I hope you're enjoying my writing so far. And now I will share with you the third intellectual essay. Enjoy. Hold the Right Beliefs by Farah Firdaus. Written on Sunday, May 25, 2025. True ideas exist and so do false ideas. Looks have no meaning is true and looks have meaning is false. However, there are humans who unfortunately believe in incorrect ideas such as looks have meaning. Even worse, some humans even enforce their false beliefs on other humans. In these times, you must be able to hold the right beliefs. There are two things that a human may do to be able to hold the right beliefs. First, you must consistently reject false ideas that are enforced on you. And second, you could use the idea that facts never change. Doing these two things will allow you to continue to hold the right beliefs. Every now and then, other humans will enforce false ideas on you. For example, looks have meaning. Yet, you must reject false ideas, and false ideas must be rejected consistently. That means every single time a false idea is presented to you, you must reject it, and it must be done each and every single time. Remember, repetition of a false belief doesn't turn it into a true idea. Unfortunately, your head has the tendency to interpret false ideas as true. If the false idea is repeatedly presented to you, yet If you, as repeatedly false ideas are presented to you, repeatedly reject them right back, your head will be able to continue to hold the right beliefs. This is the first trick you may use to hold the right beliefs, such as looks have no meaning. The second trick you may use to continue to hold the right beliefs is to always carry with you the idea that facts never change. Think about it. 1 + 1 = 2, and that will never change, no matter what. Well, humans will enforce false ideas on you, such as looks have meaning. If you reject these false ideas, punishment will be given. If you reject the false ideas, even then, fear will be put in you. And if you reject the false ideas, even then, the human will get angry. Punishment, fear, and anger are stimuli that have the potential to brainwash you into you giving in, meaning believing the false ideas. Yet, if you at these times remind yourself quietly in your head that facts never change, you won't get hypnotized into believing false ideas. Think of the fact that 1 + 1 = 2. This fact will never change. 1 + 1 will never be 1 or 3 or anything else. Ever. So, no matter how much other humans punish you, no matter how much fear other humans put in you, and no matter how much rage humans show you, facts never change, such as 1 + 1 = 2. And just like this fact, 1 + 1 = 2, facts such as looks have no meaning, sounds have no meaning, and blinking has no meaning will never change. Punishment, fear, and anger will never convert looks having no meaning into looks having meaning. Remember that in your head when you encounter humans presenting you with false ideas such as looks have meaning. To conclude, it is important to be able to hold the right beliefs when living life. Holding the right beliefs improves the quality of your life, keeps you safe, and allows you to lead a life with dignity, self-respect, and success. Be smart. Create a good character for yourself. Never fall for false beliefs that people present to you, because if looks have no meaning, looks have no meaning. But to get to that mental state of holding the right beliefs, consistently reject false ideas every time they're presented to you, and keep in mind the idea that facts never change as well. This will allow you to hold the right beliefs. So that was the third and last intellectual essay about holding the right beliefs that I just shared with you. I will conclude this video with a very short but interesting story. Listen. No Longer Want to Fit In by Farah Firdaus. Written on Sunday, April 6, 2025. Rudia was a simple and plain girl living in Queens. She had a simple look, life, and personality. What was complicated for her was fitting in. No matter what, Rudia usually wasn't accepted. All her life she wanted to fit in. At home, family would take care of her well. But what family didn't do well was accept her for who she is. At school, teachers and classmates treated her kindly and respectfully, yet they also had a hard time accepting her for who she is. Finally, community folks would guide her in the right path in life and were supportive, yet simply couldn't let go of the stigma they had against her, as they also didn't accept her either. Rudia would feel so hurt from all the stigma, discrimination, and unfair treatment she faced all her life as she lived it. Some days she would write in her journal about it. Other days she would try to ignore her family, teachers, classmates, and neighborhood folks. What was worse was that usually she would cry a lot about being rejected by people without reason. However, things got better for Rudia after decades of suffering and stigma. That happened the day she let go of wanting to fit in. After over 3 decades of suffering and stigma and being confused why no one accepted her for who she is, one day after her 31st birthday, Rudia finally no longer wanted to fit in. Rudia now understands that fitting in has no meaning. And it really doesn't matter if the human race accepts you or doesn't. What matters is to be who you are instead of change for others so they accept you. Rudia now lives her life without putting attention to what others think of her. Because what people think of you doesn't pay your bills, doesn't put food on the plate, and so on. So what meaning does acceptance by people have? None, alright? So that was the last piece of writing that I just shared with you in this video. I hope you had fun and learned lots of things too. Finally, remember to apply the various things you learned in your real life, alright?